Hey folks, it's Jeremy, the host of Blammo. Thanks so much for listening. This is a preview of one of our exclusive shows on Patreon. These are member-supported shows, meaning they only happen because of our incredible members and community. So check out a preview of the episode, and if you like it, consider joining us on Patreon at patreon.com/Blammo, where we have tons of exclusive Blammo episodes, shows, our amazing Slack group, and we're adding new things for members all the time. If not, no worries, we still love you, and we literally have hundreds of episodes of Blammo all free for you to dive into. Thanks so much.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Workwear podcast. My name is Derek Guy, and my co-host is Peter Zotello. So, Peter suggested that we do an episode on path dependency after seeing me talk about it on Twitter. I kind of threw out this kind of idea on Twitter of talking about men's style in terms of path dependency, which is, as I'm sure many readers or listeners know, is a concept that's used in social science. I thought it'd be a fun episode, not overly serious, but maybe a slightly useful concept in understanding why we wear the things that we do. Why is it that we wear blue jeans instead of pink or green jeans, or why is the suit kind of formula dark jacket with the white shirt and dark tie instead of the inverse? And I think a lot of that comes down to this idea of path dependency, which we'll get into. It is admittedly a slightly nerdy way of looking at clothes. It is not particularly the coolest kind of, we're not talking about like cool musicians or artists or anything. We're talking about a nerdy kind of like academic concept imposed onto discussions of menswear. But hopefully some listeners will find it useful. And, this is the kind of amazing insight that you can get from a podcast that gave you an episode on how to dress like Mark Zuckerberg. So let's dive in.
Hey, Derek. How are you?
Good. How about you, Peter?
I'm doing all right. It's just a few days before summertime, basically.
It is. You are going to a concert tonight.
I am. I'm going to see Warpaint.
What is that band?
I would describe them as lo-fi, guitar, lots of reverb, ethereal voices.
Are there lyrics?
There are lyrics, yeah. And they're great lyrics. They just have a real hazy, moody, slightly dark atmosphere. When you listen to them, you feel like either going to sleep or you think about all the mistakes you've made in your past.
Is it like lo-fi electro pop kind of music?
No, it's I would say they're similar to just real chill guitar pop. I think some people call it bedroom pop. Some people call it dreamy pop.
Okay. Right.
Anyone who, I'll tell you this, if you like Cocteau Twins, if you like Slow Dive, then you will like Warpaint. They have really dreamy guitars, a nice cascading wall of layers of guitars.
We're getting into music lingo now.
Yes, it's
like Rolling
it's
Stone writing. Some of the music you're describing, I haven't heard Warpaint, but I've been listening to, and I don't really venture very far out from the kind of music that I normally listen to, which is like soul, hip hop, jazz kind of stuff. But I've been listening to, and I'm going to butcher their name, Deux Filles, Deux Filles. I
haven't heard of it.
And it's a duo, two women, and they make kind of, like very moody, I don't know if this is going to be offensive, but I basically think of it as like white people music. But I like it. I say that lovingly, but when I do listen, I'm like, this is what white people listen to.
Well, it's right up my alley.
It's I don't know how to describe it besides I just think of it as white people music. But it's very enjoyable.
Nice.
Yeah.
In what way?
In what?
In what way is it enjoyable?
It's just kind of, it's like ambient. It's just kind of ambient, relaxing, but it's not generic. Because a lot of the music that I listen to is like rap and soul music. And this is just when I discovered them through Lemaire playlist on Spotify. Someone made a playlist.
They made a playlist
on Lemaire's
That's awesome.
Spotify channel.
Wow. Okay.
And I found this band, I guess. And it's basically the kind of music you'd associate with someone who wears Lemaire, which is a very kind of like white person's brand of clothing, essentially. I guess everything we talk about is kind of white people's brand of clothing, but Le Maire is like an extra layer of whiteness to me. I hope that's not offensive to anybody, but that's how
the Swedish version.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's pretty, well, as a white person, that is something to aspire to.
Yeah.
If you like that kind of music, soulful, moody music, then you would probably really like, I'm going to slaughter their name. I don't think anyone really knows how to pronounce their name except for the band themselves. Khruangbin.
Okay.
They are based out of Texas.
We're like going so deep into whiteness. It's just, we're getting to like languages that like are from like, I don't know, 16th century Ireland or something.
No, this is a very interesting band. They often will collaborate with, what's his name? Soul singer.
Leon Bridges?
Yes, thank you. Yes. Leon Bridges. Yes. So
when I think of soul singer with amazing style, I think of Leon Bridges.
There you go. So his voice and their music, match made in heaven.
Awesome. I'll definitely check that. I love Leon Bridges' music.
Oh, you would love what he's done with Khruangbin.
Okay.
You can either really listen to it or keep it in the background.
Okay.
And it's equally as satisfying.
Okay.
And they have about 3-4 albums out. They're one of those bands where you're like, nobody listens to this because it's so esoteric, but they sell out stadiums.
Okay.
It's great, especially when they have Leon Bridges because he's just amazing.
I'm so out of it when it comes to music, but I'll definitely check that out. I'm so behind. I feel like I just keep on listening. I posted something on Twitter once. I think I may have mentioned this in another pod. And I said some music I listened to. And someone said, did you know that people have invented more than rap music after like 1999? And I was like, I listened to more music than rap music in 1999, you asshole. But I do not listen to any music beyond rap music and beyond 1999.
I don't, sadly.
Yeah.
I probably should.
I was like, have you heard of Farside? You know, I'm super
That's
behind.
such a great album, man. And they did 2 albums? Or did they do just one? Bizarre Ride to the Far Side. That was the one that I wore out.
Yeah, to me, that's like the album.
Yeah.
Fantastic group. Fat Lip kind of went off and did his own thing. And
they collaborated with the Gorillaz.
Yeah.
A couple of them.
Yeah.
I know Fat Lip did for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I love all 90s rap music. And then also all the stuff that 90s rap music was built off of. So like soul, jazz, funk, R&B. I mean, that's like how I expanded my music taste, is by finding out like,
right.
You know, what DJ
Who
Premier
sampled. Yeah. Did you ever go to that website? Whosampled.com?
No.
It's a fantastic website because I used to go there a lot when I was a kid in the 90s listening to rap music, and I'm like, man, this is a slamming beat. Where is that guitar riff from?
I know there's like a 20-year-old listener at this point. It's like, are these old ass guys going to talk about clothing at any point? Because I'm just a fogey. So yeah.
What are we going to talk about? We are going to talk about
the worst way to look at clothing, which is, we're going to talk about path dependence.
You mentioned something about that in your Twitter today, and I don't really know too much about it.
This is probably, I mean, we get really nerdy on this pod, but this is probably the least cool way to look at clothing.
But does it make sense to you?
It does to me, but
okay.
I will readily admit that this is probably the worst, most nerdy way to look at clothes. Path dependence is the analytic tool or a theory often used in social science to describe phenomena, which is how an event in the past narrows the number of options that are possible in the future. So it's essentially another way of saying history matters.
Okay.
A very classic example of path dependence is the QWERTY keyboard. So QWERTY meaning the way our keyboards are arranged.
Right.
Path dependence says that once QWERTY keyboards were invented and became popular, even if you invented a new keyboard that was logically and kind of, you could verify that it was superior, it will not catch on because we are all used to the QWERTY keyboard. So even on a smartphone where you do not place both of your hands to type,
right.
You're using your 2 fingers or sometimes even 1 finger, you are still wired in your head. You know where all the keys are because you're just used to the QWERTY keyboard. So path dependence is often used in social science to say like this event happened in history and for whatever reason, it has shaped the outcomes of the future. And I was using it in a thread to talk about why certain combinations just feel right. So I was criticizing Ben Shapiro's use of a tan belt in like a gray business suit. And you can't see his shoes, but so if you're wearing a tan belt, the only two options is basically the correct option, which is to match your shoes to your belt. So you're wearing tan shoes, or the even worse option, which is to wear a different color pair of shoes. So let's say black shoes or dark brown shoes with a tan belt. That's even worse, but both options are bad. And I said, this is wrong because tan leather is historically something you'd wear out in the countryside, and a gray worsted suit is something you'd wear for business. And a couple people said, no one knows that history. Like, that is like an absurd way to deconstruct style. Like, you're pointing to a past that like nobody or few people living have any relationship to. That's like Prince Charles's world or King Charles's world now. And I think that's true. Most people don't know that history. But I think, and I later put up a photo of two men, one man wearing a charcoal flannel pinstripe suit with bright tan shoes, and another man, Oscar de la Renta, wearing basically the same suit, although in a double-breasted configuration, but with black shoes. And I said, which one do you like better?
And what did people say?
Most people said they liked the black shoe outfit better.
Okay.
And so path dependence to me is a way of understanding how some event in the past has shaped events in the future, which is, even though very few people understand this history, they just look at something and something about the outfit feels
Off.
Yes. Even if they can't describe it. So there was someone who replied to my thread and said, why don't you just say the colors clash? And to me, that it's incorrect, because
that may or may not be true.
If you wear a gray belt with gray shoes with a gray suit, the colors don't clash; they literally match. But that would also look kind of off to most people. They'd say that kind of looks a little bit weird.
It's true,
And especially if you wore it with a gray shirt, it would be a very weird outfit.
That sounds very Lemaire.
So yeah, it does. I mean, the cut would have to be like a certain way for it to be like, oh, now it's like this avant-garde thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you bought a gray shirt and gray shoes and a gray belt from Brooks Brothers, and you paired it with a gray Brooks Brothers suit, it would look weird. You'd look kind of like you didn't know what you're doing.
Right.
And to me, that's basically path dependence, is that this thing happened and it was given cultural capital by the people who wore it. And then somehow that kind of language just persisted, even though nobody has any relationship to the original group of people. I think that happens actually through movies.
Yes.
And television.
Exactly. So even though I had never heard of this concept before, I would usually explain it to people with movies and TV shows and whatever historically we have seen in the past. And movies are a great example of that. When people watch old movies, almost every single one of them, everyone says, oh, I wish people dressed that way.
Yeah.
And they can't put their finger on why. They just wished everyone dressed that way. Men, women alike. And then you see people now, and they have veered so far from that. And if they put the two side by side, they're like, a common Twitter meme is men, what is the Twitter meme?
What you think you look like, what you actually look like.
Yeah, that, or why don't men dress this way anymore? Or
right.
I forget exactly what it was. Men, what is preventing you from dressing this way?
Yeah.
Something to that effect. And usually that has horrible connotations, like going back to the way things were wholesale.
Yeah.
But when it comes to dressing, our mind's perception of what looks good are, for better or for worse, couched and born from what we grew up with and what we considered and what was universally considered a well-dressed person. And usually that's old movies or what we grew up with. So this whole tan belt phenomenon, which just recently came up. I mean, we're old enough to remember when that started in the 2000s. And we just, shook our collective menswear nerd heads and says, what is this? Will never catch on.
Yeah.
And lo and behold,
I think when you put the photos side by side, when people just see the image of the kind of modern outfit, they may or may not like it. But when you put it side by side to the image that was considered more traditional or whatever, I think then people recognize, it is actually very different. And I do think through that thread, I tried to put it in a way so that my views are not coloring. I mean, obviously, if you're following me on Twitter, maybe you've seen my other views, so you may have been affected by that. But I do think when I put those photos side by side and I just say, what do you think looks better? I was actually kind of surprised. I didn't think it would be so unanimously pro black shoes.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, I think when you actually see them side by side, you're like, oh yeah, it actually does look better with black shoes. In this specific case, not that you can never wear tan shoes, but in this specific case with the charcoal chalk stripe flannel suit, if you wear tan shoes, it's a bit weird. There's another really interesting example of path dependence in menswear. I can't remember the name of the documentary, but this has been documented in articles and film documentaries all over the place. It's how much pollution is caused through the processing of denim. Not only the pre-distressing, which is another kind of like layer of wastewater that ends up polluting the waterways where these kind of processes are done, often China.
You're talking about starting from growing cotton.
From growing cotton. So if you just grow cotton and you just spin it into yarn and then you weave it into denim and you don't do anything else, the material has like an off-white, creamy, almost yellowish color.
Right.
So in order for cotton to take on all of the colors that we actually wear as clothes, for the most part, the cotton has to be bleached and then put through a dyeing process. And in this case, it's blue for jeans. And that's because it just so happened that somebody way back when in, Denim, France, decided to dye cotton blue, indigo, and then they made, this fabric that we know as denim because it comes from Denim, France. And then somebody named Levi Strauss imported that fabric and then made this 5-pocket pant that we now know as jeans. And then people started wearing it. And then guys like Marlon Brando and all these, like James Dean gave the style meaning. And now we have this whole industry around this indigo dyed cotton 5-pocket pants that causes a ton of pollution in China. There's a woman in Northern California named Sally Fields who has a cotton farm where she grows certain strands of cotton.
Really?
In colors, in natural colors, like brown and this kind of like a mossy green.
Interesting.
And the cotton naturally takes on those colors. So it's a strand that naturally, you don't have to do anything. You can just pick the cotton and then process it, spin it into yarn, and then weave it. And then you have naturally brown or this kind of like mossy green fabric, which then, of course, can be made in jeans.
Awesome.
And that would be a more environmental way of producing jeans. But most people are not going to wear brown or mossy green jeans. And those are not even bad colors. We're not even talking of like wearing
purple, yellow,
or fuchsia or some weird color, right? Like
right.
We wear mossy green and brown and all sorts of stuff, but most people are not going to wear it as their primary jeans because we have set this path dependence of how certain looks are done.
Right.
And it involves blue jeans. There are obviously more environmental ways or sustainable ways, or let's say low impact ways to produce less polluting ways. I think buying raw denim is better than buying processed, pre-washed denim because you're removing at least one layer of that processing. But certainly the much more environmental way to wear jeans is to wear this kind of like Sally Fields cotton jeans. And I think I believe maybe Levi's may have done in the past a small line with her. I know other clothing companies have.
Wow.
But it's a pretty niche product because again, most people are not going to buy. It's sort of, like we'll wear black denim. You're wearing black denim now.
Yeah.
It's because there is a whole language around black denim.
Right.
And that just, if for some reason, a bunch of cool rock stars all of a sudden started wearing mossy green jeans, then that might set another precedent, but we just don't have that.
So social and cultural meaning have given meaning to clothes, and they have had these meanings for so long over the course of decades. So this path is going to be really hard to diverge from.
Yeah. This is another reason why I recently saw Jordan Peterson wear his tailor made a dinner jacket out of an unusual cloth. I don't think there's anything wrong with making a dinner jacket out of an unusual cloth. I can't remember the nature of the cloth, but the cloth was like, it had like a printed...
It looked like a toile, like the kind that you would put on a couch or the kind that you would put on wallpaper. Yeah,
it's like a wallpaper kind of design. But I think it had some religious like symbolism or something, which is fine. He wore the dinner jacket with jeans, a white dress shirt, like the dress shirt you'd wear with a business suit, and then a long black tie made in the same material as the jacket's facings, which was black satin. And that to me looked really weird. But when I think, for example, Billy Porter wore an outfit to, I think it might have been an award show or it might have been the Met Gala, but it was basically a man's tuxedo, but made with a woman's ball gown dress. Everything about the outfit from the waist up was fairly traditional. although it was made from like velvet. You can make a denim jacket from velvet. And then the bottom half was this ball gown dress. And to me, that makes more sense because you're in conversation with the past, but you've tweaked it in this radical way to express your identity. Whereas Peterson's outfit, to me, is not having any conversation with the past.
There's no meaning.
It's fine to make a weird jacket, but then you're also wearing it with jeans and a white business dress shirt and then the long point tie where traditionally you should be wearing a bow tie with dinner clothes. And then it's sort of, I don't know what meaning you're trying to say. I don't know what you're doing. You're
trying to be cohesive and then trying not to be cohesive.
You're just grabbing random things.
It just looks like an explosion happened in his closet and whatever landed closest to him he put on.
Yeah. It just looks like you picked things that you like. I don't mean to sound patronizing, but the only way I can relay it's sort of like how a child would grab their favorite clothes and then say like, I like this and I like this and I like this. And then you put it together and it's like, okay, that's fine. Those are things you like, but like, that's not a coherent outfit, but I'm happy those are the things you like.
Right.
Whereas Porter, even though...
Want to hear the rest? Listen to the full episode and many more other exclusive episodes over on our Patreon. Visit patreon.com/Blamo to sign up and join the Blam fam. You also get access to our exclusive members-only Slack group where we chat about this and a ton of other things. So head over to patreon.com/Blamo and we'll see you there.